Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra, the Watchful. We have another Winds of Winter theory / prediction coming your way. And this one is actually quite tricky. I've been sitting here doing some research, trying to look this up. We're talking about Jaime Lannister, Brienne of Tarth, Lady Stoneheart, Gendry, Thoros. We got them all right here in this one spot. And so this is kind of crazy to think about what is happening next. It is drastically different than the show, and I think this will show people. We could focus on, honestly, just one character, Gendry, and look at like how completely different that story arc and that path is going to be compared to what we see in the show. And if that's hopeful for you, that's great, because it gives you sort of this idea that, yeah, the book and show are going to be entirely different when you start honing in on just these characters. So, Sir Matt, here we go. Let's start with this. I'm gonna get us into this real quick here. So, if you look at the end of Jaime Lannister's sort of arc, right? We will see. I think this is in. Yeah, this is in A Dance with Dragons, and this is chapter 48. Okay. Jaime Lannister, just to set this up, has gone back into the village of Pennytree. He was just sort of dealing with this dispute between House Bracken and Blackwood. He went down there to kind of figure that out. He's headed back to River Run, where the siege at River Run. On his way, he stops at Pennytree, and he is approached by Brienne of Tarth, who says that she has found Sansa Stark, and that the Hound. And by the way, she has a bandage on her face, which we'll get to in a second. The Hound has her. She needs Jaime to come away with her so that they can get Sansa Stark. Now, let's back up a little bit. Okay, let's take you back to Brienne. And let's see, this chapter. So we're in A Feast for Crows. This is chapter 42. Brienne of Tarth comes across, she's trying to find, she has Oathkeeper. She's trying to find Sansa and Arya. And she goes to the end of the crossroads, comes across Gendry. Okay, he's not down in King's Landing. He was not Edric Storm, who was taken by Melisandre, freed by Davos. He has been with the Brotherhood without banners. Isn't that something completely different, right?
Totally different than the show. Yeah,
right. So, in chapter 42, A Feast for Crows, she's there. She gets in this fight. She is fighting some of the brave companions. And she's hurt. She's fighting Biter, as I believe the one who is right there that she's fighting, and Gendry sticks a spear through the back of his head. They take Brienne, the Brotherhood without banners, to make this short, has her, and they're taking her back to Lady Stoneheart. She goes back to Lady Stoneheart, and this is where it's interesting. Thoros is there, our Red Priest, and he starts to tell Brienne sort of what happened to Beric Dondarrion. Beric Dondarrion and the Brotherhood without banners, they come across Catelyn Stark, and she's been drowned. Her throat has been slit. Thoros will not bring her back, but Beric decides to. And Beric brings her back. He gives her that last kiss. He gives up his life fire, if you will. Fire. And she is brought back to life. She's actually called the Kingslayer's whore because she calls out Jaime Lannister's name so much in her sleep. So she is absolutely bent on bringing him down. Believes that he betrayed her because she trusted him to go back to King's Landing and bring her her daughters. But then, the whole thing unfolds where the Lannisters, and then the Freys get together and they betray the Starks. So she's also upset with the Freys as well. But when she gets her hands on Brienne of Tarth, she basically says, she realizes that she has a sword. It's a Lannister sword, Oathkeeper, given to her by Jaime. She has a letter given to her by Tommen that basically says that she's about the king's business. So from Lady Stoneheart's perspective, Brienne is not someone who seems like she's fulfilling the oath that she made to Catelyn Stark, and that, she seems like she's betrayed her in a sense, become a false friend. So she says, you have a choice to either take up your sword and to kill Jaime Lannister, or to hang. And she decides not to do. She says neither. It's not until she sees Podrick Payne, her squire, hanging there, choking, that she cries out a single word or a word. Most people believe that word is sword, because a book later, as I said, in A Dance with Dragons, she will go and she approaches Jaime Lannister. During that fight with Biter, by the way, her cheek was kind of chewed off a little bit, so it's bandaged up. So you can tell that this is, she's actually taken the quest from Lady Stoneheart, aka Catelyn Stark, and she is hunting Jaime Lannister. She gets him, and they go off. Now, later on in A Dance with Dragons, Cersei will learn that Jaime has disappeared. And I was telling Sir Matt, it takes a while, right? For that information to get back to Cersei. So he must have went with Brienne and has not come back, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is tricky,
Yeah, it is. And the crazy thing is a lot of characters and a lot of people, when we think about this idea of how does this person translate into Winds of Winter, right? What can the show tell us about this character and where they might go? Well, here you've got, in some cases you have characters who may be playing somebody else, or somebody's role gets kind of merged with somebody else from the books or something like that. But now it's like you have characters who are in totally different situations, right? I mean, Gendry, right? With the last time we see him in the show, he is rowing. Who knows where? He's just he's just out there in the sea, just rowing. But he makes his way obviously back to King's Landing. We run back into him much later. Davos goes and gets him. He's making armor in King's Landing. He has a really funny moment when he comes back. Then Davos takes him over to Dragonstone where Jon is, right? And they go and they get they go and get Jon, and he says, no, don't tell him who you are. He walks right up to him. He's like, I'm Robert Baratheon's son.
Right.
It's like, oh, Davos like, oh my God. And so then he joins them as they go north beyond the wall. Right. And that's where they run into the Hound and Beric Dondarrion, who's there with Thoros. And then Beric, Beric goes on to lead them in this battle up north, right, where they're getting a white to take back to Cersei at the Dragon Pit. And then he fights all the way until the last episode, where he ultimately dies in the Long Night. So is it just going to be Thoros of Myr kind of filling his role? Is it just going to be, what's Lady Stoneheart's involvement? But then, so that's kind of like, you have to look at what's going on with the Brothers Without Banners, what's going on with these other characters, like who's going to be filling in for Beric Dondarrion and stuff like that, because that's going to kind of tell us what's going to happen ultimately with the Brotherhood Without Banners, with Lady Stoneheart, and how that's going to interact with Jaime and some and Brienne and these other characters. Because it's like, well, hold on a second, as you start to put the pieces together to get these people here, well, is it going to be totally different, or is it going to be, somewhat similar? I mean, how do you get that going in trying to look at the knowledge we have with season 8 and season 7, and heck, even some of season 6? How does that work itself back in when these characters in the books are in totally different spots?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're doing kind of a hybrid of things here. We're looking at evidence we have in the books in those last chapters. And if you look at the nuances surrounding the way characters are talking about other characters, you can start to figure out alliances and loyalties there. Plus, you're looking at why did the show decide to keep certain characters and not adapt Lady Stoneheart? Is it because Lady Stoneheart is about to die very shortly or very quickly in Winds of Winter? So it raises those questions. Or is that a character they should have adapted because she's going to stick around for the entire series and she doesn't die? I mean, you just don't know. So I guess in an attempt here to make this like a hybrid of that, it's informing our prediction. And I'm about to make I kind of want this to be.
Go right ahead.
I would love for people to argue about this. We have no idea. But I'm starting to think, based upon what Thoros says in this chapter with Brienne, where he's describing what happened to Beric Dondarrion, the fact that Edric Dane left, and it seems that some of the others with the Brotherhood Without Banners maybe did not want to follow Lady Stoneheart after Beric dies. The word choice is interesting. It's almost as if like this. When this life fire is given, or that he was this warrior of light, Beric Dondarrion, and was replaced with a monster in Lady Stoneheart. Thoros also looks very haggard, loose skin, doesn't really, it seems like all the times that he resurrected Beric Dondarrion, it has taken life from him, and he still has his memories. I mean, again, this is something else that, you know, Beric Dondarrion has lost a lot of his memories and things, and it's a little bit poetic in that Eddard Stark was the one who gave him his command to go out and bring justice, bring out the king's, to fulfill the king's justice, and he ends up bringing back his wife from dead, from the grave. So that's a little poetic. But I'm starting to think that Thoros of Myr is not necessarily going to follow Lady Stoneheart. And so, you know, here's the real question. What happens to Jaime Lannister and Brienne? Is Brienne actually going to take Jaime Lannister back to Lady Stoneheart? I kind of don't think so. Because what are the odds that she would let him go? You hear that she's calling his name out in her sleep. Brienne could not reason with her at all. She tried to explain why she had the sword, why that Jaime's a different man, that he saved her from death and from rape and death. And also that when they got back to King's Landing, that her daughters were already gone. She won't listen to any of that reasonable the discussion from Brienne. So she says you have to prove your loyalty. I don't think, Sir Matt, that she's going to listen to anything Jaime has to say. If he's brought back, they're going to hang him. She may even go as far as what she's told Brienne is to prove your loyalty by killing him. I don't think Brienne thinks that's an honorable thing to do, you know? So I see it one of two ways. She's either going to, why go get him? Why actually go get Jaime Lannister if not to just, what, is she going to inform him? Hey, that they're looking for you, they're out to get you. He was safer there than he is with Brienne. So she's obviously going to do something with him, and he has disappeared to some degree. So I think he goes back. No, I'm sorry. I don't think there's going to be some type of quarrel between those two, and maybe she lets him get away. She says that she failed, so maybe she tries to fight him, fakes a fight, and then he leaves. But if she takes him back to Lady Stoneheart, he's dead, or he has to fight his way out. And he's not the same fighter that he was at the beginning of this series.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see, because Lady Stoneheart, as we've talked about, you know, there's a couple characters that in, you know, trying to get these characters to what we resemble something of what we see in season 8, you know, but there's like, you know, a handful of characters that we said are just so big that they just change the story so drastically, right? You know, young Griff and probably Lady Stoneheart are, without question, I'd say the two biggest, because they change the story so much that it's going to be really difficult to get to some sort of resemblance of what we see in season 8. And I'm with you. I think Brienne might break her oath, right? Because she's, you know, in the show, I mean, she ends up, you know, like, her and Jaime have that great moment where he knights her, they have the battle, they sleep together, and then Jaime ends up leaving. So, I mean, the other, you know, so there's that. And then there's also, what is Lady Stoneheart's end going to be? Right. I mean, you've got to think about that in order to see, like, well, you know, I mean, is Brienne going to kill her? I mean, that would just be tough. That'd be a hard sell. I mean, and then you look at, well, she's kind of filling Beric Dondarrion's role. Mm-hmm. And so does she, like, I don't think she's going to go north beyond the wall with Jon.
Right.
So it's tough. It's her arc is hard.
Right. So here's where I kind of think this is going to go. If Brienne does take Jaime back, and you know, Thoros is the one who seems kind of reasonable. He's listening. He seems to see both sides. Very smart. He was there. He was second to Beric Dondarrion. I think he's going to listen. And if it's proved out in his mind that Jaime is honorable, that he did try his best, and that he did appoint Brienne to keep his oath, and that she is actively working on that quest upon his behalf, I think the Brotherhood without banners may fracture again. and Thoros may take a portion of them, and Gendry may fall on that side, and it may be Gendry and Thoros who end up traveling north. That could happen. Lady Stoneheart, I believe, will stay there in between, sort of in the Riverlands, and keep trying to, any Frey that she finds, she's hanging. Any Lannister out there as well, she's hanging these people. So that's sort of her goal. I think she hangs around there and lurks in the shadows until Arya or someone comes back to deal with the Freys. And then I think we're going to have possibly maybe a really crazy meeting between a mother who's not all there, who has lost a lot of her memories and only knows revenge, who's meeting her daughters. And that, I think, is something that we can talk about that more later. But I really have been gravitating towards what happens to Thoros. What is it that he's going to help? Will we have that moment with Melisandre later on where he's able to help teach her about some of these things? Is it even Melisandre who resurrects Jon Snow? He's the one who's done it. What is it that he could teach or pass on? So those are all just questions. It's just to kind of get the conversation going. I would love for people to leave comments down below and let us know. Do you think Thoros is going to betray Lady Stoneheart? I kind of think he is, actually. And I think Lady Stoneheart is going to stay there. I think Thoros is going to decide he has to leave. It seems like maybe Beric was trying to do the right thing, but who would have thought that Lady Stoneheart was going to, or that Catelyn Stark would come back and turn into this monstrous character? That's, I'm sure, not what Beric Dondarrion thought was going to happen. And now she's pulling upon the worst of the Brotherhood Without Banners, where they just want to, get revenge. And I think Thoros is going to say, I got to move past that. We got to go in a different direction. So that's kind of my prediction. Now, what happens? I think when he does that, when he causes this divide, it will create a way in which Jaime and Brienne and Podrick can escape, and their stories can continue, and then he will continue separate from them, and then Lady Stoneheart will be left there to kind of lurk around in the Riverlands. So
okay, awesome. All right, yeah, guys, leave us a comment, let us know, hit that subscribe button if you like this, and we will see you guys next time. And remember that winter is coming.